So what the heck is this purpose stuff all about? I'll start with a quick story. Years ago, when I first started diving into books on how to build a great company, purpose kept on getting brought up. And book after book was something that just couldn't be ignored. It was this important thing that authors kept on referencing. And for a while, I discounted it. Just like you are now. When you hear purpose, your eyes begin to glaze over. And mine did too. Author after author kept on bringing it up. And so it's a thing I decided to dig into. And so years later, I decided to take a course in Simon Sinek's website, which is all about purpose. I was really trying to figure this out. And this subject matter expert named Zach Mercurio taught this course. And after that, I knew everything. Just kidding. I still struggled. And so what I did is I contacted Zach directly. And from there, we had these private coaching calls. And they weren't cheap. But every few months, I had an hour of his time and we worked through purpose. And it was a year or two later where I finally distilled how purpose and commercial property management intersect. But before I divulge those little bits of wisdom that were definitely hard-earned, let's zoom out a little bit, or a lot, 10,000 feet up, and talk about why this matters in the first place. So why does this matter? After all, we're all busy people. You need to know there's a reason this conversation matters. So why does this matter? Well, zoom out far enough, you see property management is a people business. We don't leverage capital or IP or equipment. We leverage humans. And it's a fundamental human need to feel like what we do truly matters. And we don't do this well, apathy takes over. And if you didn't know, apathy in property management is very, very bad. In fact, when I was first writing this script, I wrote this line that apathy is like cancer. But that isn't exactly right. Cancer is external. You might get cancer, but you might not. You don't spend each day avoiding cancer. But apathy is different. Apathy is more like gravity. It's omnipresent. It's a force that we continually need to apply resistance to. Otherwise, gravity or apathy wins. That's a far better metaphor. And so my point is apathy is a property management firm's greatest enemy. And it's clear that purpose is one of those key ingredients in the antidote against apathy. Great books like Drive from Daniel Pink or Start with Why, Simon Sinek, or The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni all articulate how absolutely critical it is to be clear on why you do what you do. Daniel Pink puts it simply, I quote, "Purpose is one of those core drivers of motivation. It's not a perk, it's a requirement." I'll repeat that. It's not a perk, it's a requirement. When people can't see how their work matters, performance drops, pride disappears. Everything becomes just a job. And when someone understands the impact of what they do, things change. They take ownership, they care, they show up differently. When people live and work purposely, they're happier, they're less stressed, and they live longer. And that's what purpose is all about. And I want you to not brush over that point that the longest living happy people live purposely. If there wasn't a better reason to take this subject seriously, it's your bloody life. If you're going to work in this profession, if you're going to work in any profession, understanding why you do what you do is so critical. And so back to my story. After years of wrestling with this, I finally figured out that the reason purpose was difficult to put my finger on, it came back to the point brought up in an earlier lesson about property management, that it's not just one business, it's multiple businesses. It's facilities management, financial management, and tenant and lease management. And when you're trying to articulate a purpose statement that accurately reflects the services provided by those three very different services, it becomes so abstract and so diluted that it means nothing to nobody. The aha moment was realizing that purpose will only really land when we become very, very clear on how facilities management is purposeful, how financial management is purposeful, and how tenant and lease management is purposeful individually, because they all contribute to our society, our communities in very specific ways, and they're all very different. When we try to say all three of those things in one sentence, it's no wonder that no one gets what you're talking about. In fact, I remember an early iteration of our purpose statement. It was something like freedom and peace of mind for our clients and tenants. Not only does this sound like every company would put on their website, it's also empty. Conversely, this is what we say at Taurus. Our overarching purpose is protecting commercial real estate for the betterment of our local communities. Taurus's overarching purpose is protecting commercial real estate for the betterment of our local communities. But where the rubber really hits the road is when we get into the nitty-gritty details of our subservices. And so I'm going to read these purpose statements for each. Purposeful facilities management, creating safe and well-functioning physical spaces that are enjoyed by businesses in the community. Purposeful lease or tenant management, upholding agreements between landlords and tenants to foster productive commercial ecosystems. Purposeful financial management, maximizing landlord profit, incentivizing future investment in our communities. You see, when you look at this at a very granular level, they are so very different and very meaningful and better our communities in a different way. And so in the following lesson, we're going to dive into this individually and really, really understand it.